So today we're going to talk about something that takes a 2,400-year-old idea and plugs it right into our lives, right now. And it all boils down to one simple but honestly, a deeply uncomfortable question.
No, really, think about it for a second. Are you absolutely sure that everything you see every single day on every single screen is the real deal? Or could it just be a shadow of something else? Okay, let's get into it.
To really wrap our heads around where we are today, we first have to take a quick trip back, way back, to ancient Greece. We need to revisit one of the most famous allegories in the history of philosophy, Plato's Cave.
So the setup is actually brilliantly simple. Imagine a group of prisoners who have been chained up their entire lives, forced to stare at nothing but a stone wall. Now, behind them, there's a fire, and people are walking back and forth carrying different objects, and the fire casts the shadows of those objects onto the wall. For the prisoners, these flickering shadows, well, they aren't just pictures, they're everything. That is their entire reality. They give them names, they talk about them, they build their whole world around these shadows.
Just let that sink in. This idea is from nearly 2,500 years ago, and yet, doesn't it feel like it could have been written this morning after, a long doom-scrolling session? And that brings us right to our version of the cave.
So how does this ancient story have anything to do with us? Well, the cave is back. Oh yeah, it just looks a little different this time around. You could say it's brighter, it's got a much better refresh rate, and it fits right in your pocket.
And here is the absolute key difference. See, in Plato's story, the prisoners were there against their will. They were physically chained up. But in our digital cave, we're willing participants. We walk in on our own. The chains aren't forged from iron. They're coded from algorithms, designed for one thing, to keep our eyes glued to that glowing glass screen.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we can literally just get up and walk out at any time, why do so few of us actually do it? Well, the answer isn't about force. It's about a very, very specific kind of comfort.
Right, because our cave isn't some dark, dreary prison. Oh no, it's more like a super stimulating, endlessly fun amusement park that's been perfectly designed to give us exactly what we want, from one moment to the next.
Come on, let's be honest. This is pretty much a universal ritual now. Before our eyes have even fully adjusted to the morning light, we're reaching for that little black mirror, just to see what shadows danced on the wall while we were asleep. It's a habit that anchors us, not in the real world around us, but in the digital one.
This brings up such a great comparison. We usually think of control in those Orwellian terms, a big boot stamping on a human face forever. But our reality? It feels a lot closer to what Aldous Huxley imagined in Brave New World. We're not being controlled by the things we hate. We're being controlled by the things we love.
And that, right there, is the really chilling part. You don't need some scary totalitarian state when you've got a perfectly tailored feed that gives you an endless stream of pleasure and outrage and distraction. The algorithm, that's the new warden, and it keeps us in line through seduction, not by force.
So in Huxley's world, they had this drug called Soma. It was basically perfect happiness in a little pill, designed to make sure nobody ever felt the need to question the system. Our Soma isn't a pill, it's the infinite scroll. It's that constant little drip, drip, drip of dopamine we get from likes and shares and new videos, making absolutely sure we never get bored enough to actually look away from the screen.
Okay, but all this constant, curated comfort, it's not free. It comes at a cost, a really profound one. What do we actually lose when we spend all our time staring at the most beautiful, most exciting, most perfected shadows in all of human history?
Wow. I mean, what a stark and just brutally honest thing to admit. When the main thing you're taking in is a filtered, algorithmically sorted version of the world, your own unedited sense of what's real just starts to fade. The line between the world out there and the shadow play on the screen gets really, really blurry.
And look, we can't just throw more tech at this problem to fix it. Getting a faster phone or downloading a new productivity app isn't going to fill that void. You can't just open a terminal and run a command to recover your soul. This is a human problem, not a hardware one.
Just seriously, think about that. If you could press a button and instantly get back every moment of genuine, unfiltered experience that you've traded for scrolling, what would that be worth to you? It's kind of a staggering thought.
So, if there's no magic button, no app, no secret command, what do? How do we get out? Well, the way out isn't complicated or technical at all. In fact, it's almost embarrassingly simple.
That's it. That's the whole escape plan. It's not about some grand gesture like deleting all your accounts or smashing your phone. It's about a small, conscious choice.
A choice to disengage from the shadow world for a moment and just engage with the real one. It's about seeing a beautiful sunset without that nagging urge to capture it for a post. It's about just seeing it.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The real world isn't content. It's not something that needs to be packaged and filtered and shared. Real experience, it often gets smaller the moment you try to turn it into a story or a picture. The most meaningful moments are often the ones that are just for you and nobody else. So let's just end on this one final provocative thought. If any of this made you feel a little uncomfortable, a little irritated, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that feeling is the first sign that you're starting to turn away from the shadows on the wall and beginning to face the light.